Hello and welcome to this month's edition of Ask the Beekeeper. Hello and welcome to this month's edition of Ask the Beekeeper. So, um, sorry we missed the July side. I went on a vacation. It was great. I think that's the beauty of running a good operation is you get an opportunity to take a vacation because we worked way too hard not to take one. But here we are in August, so I'm excited to talk to y'all. If you have questions, just put them in the comments and I will be happy to answer them while we're going through this. And so, what's going on here? Well, we got a little purple honey in late June. That was great. For those of you who don't know what purple honey is, it's completely random occurrence that only happens here in the Sandhills of North Carolina. No one knows where it comes from, and we never know if we're going to get it. I'll tell you how random it is. I've got 72 hives out right now, and we uh, we got 24 pounds from one hive. There were 17 hives at that site, and only one of them brought in purple honey. We have no idea where it comes from, but that was really a nice boost for us to be able to sell that. But boy, it sold out quick. Uh, we've been treating for mites as best as we can this summer. We've been using the oxalic acid strips. Those seem to be working very well. It's gotten our mite count down nicely. We we were feeding a little bit back in early July. I had to feed one time because the hives were getting light. I went through and fed them. I did a YouTube video on the different types of feeders that we use. By the way, I prefer the date ant wooden one with the floats in it. Um, Everyone's got an opinion. That's mine. Um, I just like that one. Uh, but we've got the supers back on right now. The honey supers back on, and some of the hives are starting to pull it in. Not quite sure where they're getting it from. I've seen a lot of the bees out hitting the soybeans next to us. I've been paying attention. I'm seeing the bees out on the cotton, so I would expect it to keep coming in. But all this rain makes it a little bit of a challenge. But everything's going to start blooming here in a couple weeks, and when we'll really start seeing it in, and then we'll harvest at the end of September, whatever we got. Looking forward to seeing what it tastes like this year with all the rain, and looking forward to seeing what we get. Um, yeah, I have a question on how do I know when it's time to harvest the fall honey? Uh, well, we harvest at the end of September, and the thing with honey is it's a fine line between getting greedy and uh, giving the bees time to recover after you've harvested that honey. Because we got to harvest that honey, and then I got to treat them for mites because I can't treat for mites when I've got the honey supers on. So, and I've got to do that before winter, and then we've got to get them fed again so that they're fat, dumb, and happy going into winter. So late September, it's as far as we ever take it, and it's all the way as far as we ever have to take it because that's about the time the flow stops anyway. Um, what's the best way to get the most honey throughout the year? Should we try to do more than two harvests? There's a lot of opinions on that. Uh, we typically do one spring harvest and one fall harvest. Next year, I will probably do sort of the same. Uh, I'm thinking next year, after I get two supers full on each one, I may pull one or both of those supers and just go ahead and harvest them and then stick them back on so they can refill them. That's not necessarily for me to get more honey. That's a way to maximize the use of drawn comb that I've got. And it's a good technique for a beekeeper who doesn't have enough drawn comb. A way is when those supers are full, pull them, harvest them, stick them back on, and you could get double use out of them. The trick is then you've got equipment that you have to clean repeatedly, and that gets a little bit old. I've got a question. What's the best time of year to start a hive? Well, that depends, is the answer. So the best answer, the typical answer is spring. You know, late March, early April, depending on where you're at. Uh, I say that depends because in about a week and a half, I'm going to drive down to a guy I know in South Carolina that needs to sell some, that needs to downsize, and so he's going to sell some hives in some nukes. So we're going to pick up a few nukes. From my two apprentices are getting some too, and you know, I'll add 6 or 7 hives, you know, that way. So you can do it in the fall. The trick is in the fall that you got to feed the heck out of them and you got to treat them because you don't have a lot of time to recover from any mistakes. So I recommend spring. It's just simpler. Um, yeah. So one thing I want to make sure I hit is we've now got candles and lip balm in our stores, in our store, and we're going to offer it online soon. I'm really excited about that one. My daughter, my 17-year-old daughter, is making these, and I see it as a way to bring her into the farm, to see a future on the farm, and give her another source of income for herself because we pay her, we buy it, we buy what she makes, um, and so I don't make a lot of money on the sales of that, but it's just a way to make it continue the family farm. I'm really excited about that. We're going to be able to offer those on our online store here at the end of August. We can't do the summer. Here's a pro tip: you can't. Well, you can, but it's hard to sell lip balm candles, those clamshells, the Scentsy clamshells, in the summer because it melts in the mail on its way to you. So most folks do that in the winter, and that's what we're going to do because it's just safer. Um, Coming into the fall, we're running into festival season soon too. That's a busy time of year. So during the summer, I kind of grind it out with a farmer's market every couple weeks. I've only got one farmer's market I go to, and I go to it every other week because it's just hot, and I like my Saturdays too. But fall is a great time for festivals for us. We make 10 to 15% of our revenue in festival sales, direct to consumer festival sales, and we've got six of them that we go to now. We've kind of got it down to a circuit, so that we can actually have again a little time off, but we still get to make the money we need to make, and we attend good festivals. Um, we select the ones that we sign up for. We typically we go to the festival the year before to see how many people are there, see how many other honey vendors are there. If there's like 5 honey vendors there, it's not worth going to. If it's not a lot of people, it's not worth going to. But if it's got a lot of people and it's got some opportunity, yeah, we'll try it out. And we added 2 last year that we had never gone to and canceled 2 others to make space, and those have worked out real well. So it's turned out well. Um, what's the biggest frustration about doing festivals? When you show up and there's 5 other honey vendors and there was only supposed to be one. No one makes money then. You all go home frustrated. Of course, weather, can't control weather, but it doesn't make it less frustrating. Stuart's asking, how's the new facility? Excellent. The, for those of you who don't know, we put together our new facility over the winter and put in, I spent a lot of money on equipment in that thing and automation, and it's made all the difference. We can get things done now so much faster and with so much less labor than we used to, which again that equates back to time off. We're not killing ourselves, and that's important for the long run. This is a marathon, so that facility allows us to just get stuff done quickly and process through things. We did the first harvest in the fall or in the spring this year, and we learned a lot of lessons about that new facility. Things things that had not occurred to me because we've been operating out of that little mobile trailer. Uh, One of the big ones we didn't think through well was controlling the humidity after we harvest. So we draw the humidity down in that room to about 20% before we start harvest. And then we just turned it off. We just turned off the dehumidifier. And that was stupid. We should have left it on because some of the honey that we were letting settle afterwards to let the wax settle and some of the impurities settle, we left it in there for 3 or 4 days. That was June. and we rained a lot, and the humidity got up in there, and honey's hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture out of the air, and that honey got up to like 26% um, moisture content, and we want it down around 17. And once it gets up that high, the honey starts fermenting. So we lost I don't know, about 80 pounds of honey that we shouldn't have, 80, 90 pounds, just because we were stupid. So that's a lesson learned. Next year, next year I leave that on, uh, and keep the humidity controlled in there down in that 30% range while we're letting the honey settle. I've got a question. Do bees hibernate in the winter? No. What happens is October-ish around here anyway. It changes depending on your climate, but around October here, the queen stops laying, and the eggs she's laying are winter bees. So normal bee lives about 60 days, and our winter bees can live up to 6 months. And so she lays these winter bees. There's no drones. They go out and they kill all the men. Those are the drones. They kill them all because they're at this point they're not useful. They get the hive cleaned up, and they pack in honey for the winter. And in the winter, what they do is they cluster up in about a cantaloupe-sized ball. That's about what we want to see, about cantaloupe-sized, and with the queen in the middle because she's important. And then they just eat their saved stores, their honey and pollen over the winter, and that's how they stay warm and fed and keep it through. I mean, we have to monitor through the winter their weight, because if they're eating it too fast and it's still got cold and winter to come, we gotta go out and give them some fondant. Yeah, fondant, just like the stuff that goes on cakes. That's what we feed them in the winter. And and when I say monitor their weight, there are some really fancy scales that are connected to Wi-Fi, which I would love to have, but I don't have them. So what we do is we kind of go out in the winter and kind of tip the hive a little bit, and you can feel it when it's super light. You can feel it when we do a bunch of them and they're super light, then we gotta get out there and feed. But hopefully we get it right. Last year we got it right, and they came out of it, beautifully. That was real handy for us. Uh, when your bees come out fat, dumb, and happy into spring instead of starving, they're far more productive. And it showed in our harvest this year, so I was really happy about that. Um, Samantha asked, so if your humidity level in your house gets high, could the honey in the pantry ferment and go bad? Uh, if you leave the lid off, in our case, the honey was just sitting in the open tank, letting it settle, and so it began absorbing it. So yeah, don't put your honey in your pantry with the lid off. As long as you put the lid back on, it's fine. But yeah, if you left it out with the lid off all the time in your pantry, yeah, it would ferment. Uh, Speaking of fermentation, one of the things we tried last month, which I'd never done before, was garlic fermented honey. One of my field hands showed it to me. Take a little jar of honey, and well, you would take a little jar, you fill it up with garlic cloves, peeled garlic cloves, and then you cover it up with honey, and then it was pretty neat. It like started fermenting in like 2 days, and so we had to burp it every couple of days to kind of let the air out, and took about a week and a half, and it stopped, and the honey went from honey to almost like a water, and but it changed the entire flavor. So the garlic that was in there took on a far more edible flavor, and it softened it up. So you're able to just eat the garlic cloves, and so we were pulling those out and put them in. Um, I like a little bit of charcuterie, so we put them on the side with the fermented honey, and boy, it was good. And it's supposed to be really, really good for your immune system too. That garlic fermented honey, so something to try if you haven't done it. I had never done it, but worked out well. And you can use some of the cheap store-bought honey to do it, because you're not as concerned about some of the taste, because you're fermenting it with garlic. Let's see some. Oh yeah, hey, some other things that have been going on around here. We One of the things I do in my free time, my abundant free time, is I serve on a number of advisory committees and boards. Um, One of the ones I'm really proud to serve on is I'm on the advisory committee for the North Carolina Agricultural Apprenticeship Program, specifically that one was designed to bring veterans into agriculture. And so um, I've been really been working on those. Uh, that's neat because I get to bring more veterans into agriculture, but we've been expanding that one so into youth, into general population that wants to enter agriculture through an apprenticeship. For those of you who have never thought of an apprenticeship or know what an apprenticeship is, uh, there's a big push. I'm also on the North Carolina Governor's Workforce Development Commission, and I had the privilege of sitting in a brief yesterday where the state economist briefed out some numbers, and what they're finding is that up through the late 1990s, early 2000s, there was a real wage benefit to going to a four-year college versus a high school education or an apprenticeship type of operation. But what they've been seeing in the last 8, 9 years is the wage gap between those two is beginning to inverse. We're seeing a higher and faster wage growth from those who go into an apprenticeship program than we are seeing with folks who go to a four-year degree. That's pretty neat because these apprenticeships, people think of apprentices as, you know, HVAC apprentice or electrical apprentice or construction apprentice, and they are. But there are apprenticeships for machinery, milling machinery or computer-aided technology folks. There's plant operations apprentices. That's a senior level job, and they're bringing folks in as apprentices into these 2 or 3 year apprentice roles, and when they graduate, they're from the apprentice when they come out, they're hiring them into these high level jobs. So, if you got kids, think about the apprentice side. I'm pretty impressed, and one of the things we've done that I'm really excited about is we finally cracked the code for the Veterans Affairs Vocational Rehab to support apprentices. So now a veteran that qualifies for vocational rehab, VRNE, chapter 33, I think it is, can do an apprenticeship and collect their housing allowance. And the employer actually gets compensated for training that person from the VA. So it's a win all the way around. And we just got the very first one in North Carolina done ever, which is bizarre to me. It's never happened before. So that's a huge win, I think, for the workforce. By the way, the other one that we're working on is if you are a 100% disabled veteran, your kids are eligible for the Dependents Education Assistance Program. And what that is a tax-free stipend of about $1,500 a month right now while they're during their education. My son did it when he was going to lineman school, and they paid him a $1,500 a month thing. But now we're working through getting students who are in an apprenticeship through the process of getting them eligible to collect their cash while they're in an apprenticeship too. So it doesn't necessarily need to be the veteran; it could be the veteran's children. What a phenomenal thing! What a great way to bring all these skills up and work people through so they can get an excellent job without going in debt potentially at a large school because the cost of college ain't getting cheaper. So that's really exciting for me, and that's what we do in our spare time around here. Is yes, I'm a policy nerd. I dig into policy and we work through things. So sue me. Uh, let's see what we have here. We have either one of the ones here. What do the bees do when it's raining every day like it is now? We haven't had a single week in North Carolina where it hasn't rained in August. Unfortunately, most of the time, what they do is they're just like us. They hang out inside and they eat, which is not good because they begin going through their stores. The forager bees, if the weather's decent part of the day, they'll get out. The problem is a lot of times the rain washes away the nectar first thing in the morning, and there's not, and the pollen too, and there's not that much for them to bring in. So they got to work a lot harder when it's raining, like just all the time. So that doesn't excite me. I'm hoping it dries out a little bit here in the next 3 to 4 weeks so I can get a good fall harvest as things start blooming. And we pull those in. By the way, in the winter, when they're all clustered up in that ball, they don't. The only reason they really go outside is well, they gotta use the bathroom. It's called a cleansing flight, and the bees will go out and do a short flight, just like us, like going to an outhouse. They'll go out and do a little short flight and do their business and come home. Uh, but that's the only reason they go outside, really. Yeah. So let's see. The other thing I would appreciate from any of you who are watching this, if you could give Secret Garden Bees a good Google review. We've had a couple of fake reviews from some bots lately, um, and it drags my rating down. So um, I'd really appreciate it if you like our product or you like what I do here. Give us a good review. It would be much appreciated. Uh, you know, well, that's my list. That's what's going on the farm. Um, for the next couple of weeks, we're just kind of letting the bees do their thing. Uh, as they harvest, we're getting in and checking them. We're working the nuke yard. I'm bringing in a few more nukes, so we'll get ready for next year. I'm trying to get up to around 80 hives for the springs, 80 production hives in the spring, so that we can you know, produce a lot more honey, ideally. Uh, so we're getting them ready, but that's kind of it's not an everyday thing. We're working a lot of construction, working on some other barns that have been on the list for 10 years that I'm finally getting around to fixing. Um, Fixing some HVAC issues. We had to cull the duck population today. We had too many men, so now I've got some ducks in the freezer. Uh, so that's what we've been doing. Uh, I have a question. Do we have potential for bears or other predators? And if so, what do I do? Well, we have not seen bear in the parts of this county where I have my hives, thank God. But we are starting to see some bears get closer, so I'm gonna have to start thinking about putting out some electric fences with solar panels maybe next year. Especially some of the outsides that we can't monitor as closely. May have to get some out there. Those are the big ones that we're worried about. The rest of the predators, we don't have the skunks here as bad, and which is a big problem in some areas. So that's not a huge deal for us. Hive beetles with all this wet has been a little rough this year. Of course, the mites, you just keep dealing with those, and then the wax moths. A hive gets weak, and the beetles move in, and the wax moths move in, and they kill it, and then your hive is a mess. By the way, if this ever happens to you and your hive dies and you open it up and it's got beetles and wax moth larvae and everything, don't freak out. Just write it off. Take the hive, take the whole thing. We take the whole super and all. We don't even take it apart because it's nasty, and we drop it into a deep freeze. I've got an old deep freezer we bought off Facebook. We just drop the whole thing in there for 34 days, and then you pull it out and kind of clean it up the best you can, and then we reuse them. You can take that hive with wax moth larvae and all that stuff in it, and stick the frames into a really strong hive, and those bees will clean it out and rebuild it really quickly. Sometimes we throw it away just because it's old anyway and it's torn up anyway, and we get rid of it. But don't freak out if this happens to your hives. It's just the way things are. So. All right, well, I'm gonna give this another minute here see if any other questions come in. But yeah, those are the huge things that we've been doing around here. I'm hoping before our next one, I've got some interesting things going on. I can talk to you about with initiatives I'm working on. Where again, in my other spare time, I'm trying to write a book, The Agripreneur, to put together some of the things we've done. Between grants, tax credits, hiring initiatives, programs to offset the cost of labor, tax credits, insurance, things like that, to kind of put some of these things together. Uh, I'm, it's hard. It's hard for me to write a book. Uh, so, but we're working on it. I'm hoping to have that out here by the end of the year. So we'll do that. We'll probably put that on Kindle, on Amazon for Kindle download. Uh, we're,
You missed a question.
I'm hoping I'll do some, I'm hoping I'll be able to, do some more speaking events this fall. Uh, Business speaking events. People want to hear about how we've built this and talk through some of this. So I've got a couple of those brewing. I've got a question. Are people able to come out to the farm? Yes and no. The farm store is open 24/7, self-serve. We do have a small video tour. This is a self-serve video tour, and we do have some hives down by the store. So you're welcome to come out to the store and do that and take a look at the hives. From a tour standpoint, we don't do those. I can't, I haven't figured out how to make it profitable enough to pay for the insurance that would require for me to do it and the time it takes. I'd have to have large groups and I'd have to have it steady enough. I just can't figure it out yet, but we'll get closer. Now, if you're a Harvest Host member, which is an RV group, you can book into the farm and come out and spend the night in your RV. And our Harvest Host guests wander around the pond and say hi to the ducks and generally enjoy themselves. So that works well. I got a question: is spraying your yard with pesticides that keep away mosquitoes and other insects harm the bees and them being able to pollinate? Yes, it's evil. Um, Spraying pesticides and that mosquito authority stuff and the mosquito spray that kills everything. It's all over the bees. It's all over the flowers, and the bees come in and yeah, it kills them off. I have had hives around places that do it, and it's um, yeah, it's a problem. So, and I would encourage you to not do that. Uh, so, but all right. Well, I appreciate y'all joining this month, and you can always follow up with questions. I'd love to see you all next month and invite some other folks. Looking forward to talking to you and looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks for joining us tonight.